What's up, everybody? This is Bob's Three-Toed Warriors from Studio 1329 with the Word on the Street, Season 1, Episode 11, titled, Do You Trust Me? And I had the Aladdin, Do You Trust Me? Do You Trust Me? Queued up, but I'm using my phone for another thing in this, and so I didn't play it. Hopefully, so many people know who Aladdin even is. But the reason I picked that name is because I have the gentleman from Trust Your Board podcast on here with me today. Steve and Will, how you guys doing?
Good, man. Great. How are you?
Thanks for having us. Doing good. Thanks for coming on the show. We just recorded on your show a Dynasty startup mock, and now we're going to do a mock on ours. So that's pretty cool. I'll have a little drink ski that little Crown and Coke here.
Cheers to you.
Unofficial sponsor. That's right. You can
maybe
get the pod. Say again.
And maybe someday you can get them as the official sponsor.
That would be awesome. I doubt it. You can catch the podcast on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, just about everywhere else. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. It helps a lot, more than you guys know, and I really, really appreciate it. Guys, why don't you tell everyone where y'all can be found?
Pretty much just echo what you said. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you find podcasts, you can find the pod. YouTube, we're usually broadcasting our draft boards, what we specialize in the mock drafts. And then on Twitter, you can find us at Trust Your Board. Give us a follow.
Awesome. And then how about your Twitter handles for those who'd like to follow you guys?
Yeah, it's going to be at Trust Your Board right on Twitter. And we pretty much combine there. I have our own personal handle, but for the most part, most of our content's going to come right from the at Trust Your Board handle.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Now, do you do what Him Her Sports does and do the him and the her and the who said it? And no.
No,
not really. It's usually like a we, but sometimes, if it's in our own personal leagues, it'll be a shout out to that.
Awesome. Yeah, Will and I are pretty aligned in most of our opinions. So sometimes we need to specify there's a big difference, but we share a lot of opinions.
All right.
Yeah, it actually started because we co-run two dynasty teams, so that kind of aligns it pretty well there.
Okay, that's exactly where I was about to head. I was about to say, how did y'all two gentlemen meet? Because you're not in the same town, you're not in the same city, you're not in the same state. Oh wait, you're not in the same country.
So that wasn't always the case. So we did establish on our podcast earlier. Will's from the Philly area, or living in the Philly area. I'm living in the Toronto area, but I was born and raised in South Jersey. So we started working together 5 years ago. Oh man, that's like 6 years ago now, wasn't it?
2014, I think. Yeah,
2014. And then Will, I think it was you that pitched the idea to start a podcast, and we were immediately like, no, we don't have time for this. Plus we're not good enough for this. And then a couple years ago, I think I was on the beach, and I was like, you know what? We could do a podcast around mock drafts.
Yeah.
It's amazing. What clarity you get from relaxing on a beach.
I know, right? It came together so quickly. Like within like a week, we had the name, we had the podcast set up everywhere. I mean, it was just
mine started rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually started as most good duos do it as enemies. We at work we had a work fantasy football league, and Steve and I both felt we knew the most about fantasy football. I think I won the first 2 years, Steve, and you've got how many?
I've gotten 0. Lost in the championship this year.
Wow.
But he was there. He was close.
I didn't even see the salt shaker going on that wound, but
I know. Funny enough, though, me and Will play each other twice a year, every year. Not that that's planned. It just works out that way, and we are exactly 500. Yep. 6 years on?
Happens out, It always happens that way.
Okay.
But a friend of mine was starting up a dynasty, a new dynasty startup league, and I had too many leagues as it is. I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to at least try to do one of these co-run things, because a friend of mine has a few leagues that he co-runs. So I figured I'd run it by Steve, and, I think maybe just a few months after the startup draft is when we – actually, maybe not even, like right after the startup draft when we started the podcast. It was pretty quickly.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Well, congratulations, and a little cheers to future success in your show.
Cheers to you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so before we get into the draft, let's actually kick out the winner. We had one person put a question out there on Twitter, and when you're the only one who puts that question out there, You're the automatic winner.
Nice.
Very nice. So that was at Hunting GW. He says, Todd Gurley. So many people are down on him and his knee this year. Maybe even both knees. How many other players around his current ADP have the potential to produce what he has already showed us that he's capable of producing? That's a fantastic question. And you guys want to tackle that for a moment?
Yeah, I'm going to pull up the ADP now. Where's Mr. Todd going?
And he didn't say if it was redraft or dynasty. I think
You just assume redraft then?
Yeah, let's assume redraft.
A lot of variance there. So it looks like he's 49 overall.
Okay.
Run
the
through
end
a
of the
couple
end of
guys
the fourth.
around him. Yeah, we got we're just looking at running backs. David Montgomery, Mark Ingram, David Johnson, Gurley, Mostert, Jonathan Taylor. So somewhere that's that little range.
Yeah, out of that range, we know Mostert, if Mostert would be the full-time starter and that they didn't utilize anyone else, then, Mostert might be the pick there. David Johnson, if he can return the form, but as we mentioned on our podcast, you got to get that plotting image out of your head.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't argue. I love Todd Gurley this year. He's definitely a worry in Dynasty. If you follow our Twitter, we're always saying like he feels like a guy that could just retire out of nowhere at the drop of a dime. Like he has that worry. But for this year on the Falcons offense, they're going to run him into the ground. It's a 1-year deal. So
Sure.
I love him this year.
Yeah, I can see that completely. So there you go. There you go, Mr. Hunting GW. Not only do you have your answer, but you also have your entry into the auction listener league. And I will be putting out the next contest type form on Twitter probably tomorrow if I had to guess. So be looking for it and we'll get that league filled up and it'll be a good time. So let's talk about this auction, this mock draft. We're going to do a redraft mock. It's going to be one quarterback, half point per reception, one quarterback, two running back, two wide receiver, one tight end, one flex, 5 bench, no kickers in defense because they're not real people. So it's basically your typical basic Yahoo or any type setting when you click in. So should be good for some people. And we'll jump in here and we'll do this. Will, you got the 2nd spot. Steve, you got the 8th. That's better than 12th where you were.
Yes, for sure.
And I could legitimately take the person that I took last time at the 11th spot instead of taking him at the 3rd spot last time when I should have took the running back. So, so with that, I think I have to hit start.
Yes, so in top right, yep.
Be helpful.
You were just there, yep. And then begin draft. We're good.
Boom.
Begin
There
draft.
we go.
And go. There we go.
Oh, you know what you might want to do? Pause it real quick.
Yep.
Go to draft settings.
And put fake people in?
No, change the timer from no limit to like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Computer's really thinking about that one.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Auto pick. There you go.
Okay.
So just hit update and then we're good to go.
All right. Hey,
Perfect.
we all learn.
This is true.
We're going to resume that draft.
Let's do it.
It should kick us right off.
And
There we
Saquon
go.
Barkley. There we go. Saquon Barkley
Yeah.
goes first. Will, it is over to you.
So yeah, this one I think is one of the easier picks of the draft for me. I know in our startup that we just did, Zeke went first, but I think the consensus for most people is Barkley and CMC here. I am actually a Penn State graduate, so I was kind of hoping that Barkley would have fell, but I'm not going to be mad that Christian McCaffrey is still available there. So pretty probably the easiest pick I'm going to make all draft here. The only other person I may consider would be Zeke, but I think it's pretty easy that I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey here, and we'll see who falls to you, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, Michael Thomas.
Okay, so a lot of running backs going off the board. Yes, that was a run. I think, Bob, I'm gonna teach your listeners a lesson here.
Ooh.
And,
I like it.
I don't know about your philosophy, but Will and I are both late round quarterback guys.
Oh, yeah, I'm right there with you. So,
Okay, cool. So I'm going to do the opposite of that. We're going to lock in a quarterback right now.
Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, it's just I'm setting myself up for an hour of not enjoying this, but you know what? We're going to do it. And maybe I'll come out liking my team. Probably not, but we're going to do it. So it's between Mahomes and Jackson. You really can't go wrong either way. I prefer your kind of prototypical quarterback, which would be Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to lock him in here and then just panic for the rest of the hour here.
okay.
Yeah.
So after Patty Mahomes went, we had Josh Jacobs and Tyreek Hill.
All right. So, to me, I've almost got the turn here. I am very tempted to take a wide receiver, but I did pay attention to myself last time. Or did I? Or did I? The temptation here is definitely going to be, do I go running back, or running back, wide receiver? Because I'm definitely taking a running back. And let's just get one out of the way because there's plenty of wide receivers I like. We'll go with Mr. Aaron Jones here. I was debating him or Joe Mixon. I think either one would be really good.
Yeah. Probably safer
I'm
offense.
going Joe Mixon actually because
Ooh, pivot.
I'm going to go Joe Mixon. I changed my mind because I haven't clicked anything, so I didn't take my finger off the piece. All right, Joe Mixon to me. Hopkins and Julio go next. So I could come back and take Jones here if I want. And I think I really do want to start out with a running back team. I feel like there's going to be a massive running back run after this. In redraft, I feel like the first 2 rounds are just going to be a wall of green in this scenario of running backs. I could be very wrong, but I think it's very possible, and I want 2 of them. So with that being said, Aaron Jones goes to me next. After Aaron Jones goes, Devontae Adams goes, Nick Chubb, and then it's to you, Steve.
I was really hoping you were going to replicate my dynasty and go with DJ Moore and leave some running backs for me. That's tough. So given I've made this decision, what I want to do is try to turn this into a 0 RB kind of a deal.
Okay.
Maybe not completely 0, but at least wait.
Uh-huh.
As kind of worrisome as that is, that's what we're going to attempt doing. So we're looking at wide receiver and tight end. I could really double down on the anti-me and go with the tight end here, but I think I'm not going to do it for now. So we're looking at wide receiver. We have Godwin, Evans, Galladay, Thielen, Cooper, and Amari Cooper, and Cooper Kupp. So plenty of solid options here. I am going to go with someone that I think has a fair amount of safety and a lot of upside, as we just saw in this past year, and go with Mr. Chris Godwin. Yeah,
Steve, you could double down on quarterback here and get Lamar as well.
Have a trading piece.
I have a trading piece. Yeah, and in some leagues you might pull that off, but not easy to do. So I am going to go with Mr. Chris Godwin, get some safety with some upside as well to really start off this team. After my pick, we did have Lamar Jackson go right afterwards. And we had Travis Kelce, Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake, and Mike Evans. Picks to you, Will.
All right. So them off the board, we're looking at just Mahomes and Jackson off the board at quarterback, just Kelce off the board at tight end. So looking, there's still some running backs available, but I think that there's a good bit of a drop-off there. So I think looking at the wide receiver or tight end position, Kittle's probably the only option I'm looking at tight end currently. Wide receiver, probably just Kenny Galladay. You got Thielen, you got Cooper and Kupp, some decent options there. So for me, I think this first one, I'd rather lock in Kittle and then kind of see what of the wide receivers get back to me and potentially even running backs. So we'll lock in Kittle here, get that positional advantage at RB or RB1 and tight end, and then see what happens on the turn. So we had Austin Eckler and Adam Thielen go. So that worked out big. I was hoping that Galladay got back. Wasn't sure that he would. I was hoping him or Eckler. Amari Cooper's, there's 2 Coopers there. Amari Cooper and Cooper Kupp are both options here, but not thrilled on either. Cooper's a little more boom busts. Kenny Galladay, while we've only seen a couple years of it, I think he's got some consistency to my floor there. I'm a big DK Metcalf fan, and he obviously won't get back to me here. I don't think I can reach for him here with Kenny G still on the board. That would be another option. If Kenny wasn't there, I may have reached for him. But for me, we're going to go with Kenny Galladay. And we'll see what gets to you, Steve. We got Melvin Gordon, Leonard Fournette, Le'Veon Bell, Amari Cooper, and Chris Carson.
Quite an interesting situation. I do like some wide receivers on the board. Kupp, I like. Metcalf, I like. Ridley, I really like. A.J. Brown's pretty good. T.Y. Hilton's too early for you. You start getting into the less desirable options. I am really tempted to go with Mark Andrews and lock in a top-end tight end. That's something you typically do in a zero RB kind of strategy. But I will bypass that. I think, and I'm just going to turn into a whole thing. I'm going to take an upside shot on Ridley. And maybe I'll have this year's Godwin. I know some people are thinking that's the case. I really don't. I think the upside's there. I think the wide receiver one's potential, but what was Godwin last year? It's 2 overall. I don't think that's really in the cards for him, not with Julio there. So I'm going to lock him in there. At the very least, he should be relatively safe with plenty of upside as well. So I will go ahead and grab my second wide receiver here and push the zero RB strategy a little bit further. Did have another running back go off the board, Devin Singletary, and then Cooper Kupp.
Okay, so you surprised me, unless I'm missing it, and I miss stuff all the time on the board. But I thought one or both of you were big DJ Moore fans.
Both of us.
Steve, I think slightly more.
I was surprised you took Kupp over DJ Moore, so I think I'm going to go in here and do the honors since I have 2. Is Moore gone? Am I just totally missing it?
No, he's here.
No,
he's a little bit further down the ADP, which can't be. I mean, in a half-point PPR, maybe.
Yeah.
He'll rise. I'm doing it anyway. Sure. Boom. I took DJ Moore because I felt like he should be gone, and then James Conner, and David Montgomery went right after him. So I've got 2 running backs. I've got a wide receiver. And the natural thing to say is, well, why not just grab another wide receiver? And the answer to that question is because there's a crap load of wide receivers, but there's not a crap load of Todd Gurley's and the work that he's going to get out there.
Ooh.
And so if I can walk out of this with Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, and yeah, it's going to be nice. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Except we got to take more out of here.
You get JD Moore right there.
Yeah, no, thank you.
That would have been tempting for me to break my zero RB strategy if Gurley got to me.
Gurley was tempting.
Oh, yeah.
The gambler in you, Steve. I don't think you could have passed it up.
Yeah, that would have been tough, but
I like that start. All right. So after Todd Gurley goes off the board, DK Metcalf leaves you. Clyde goes. What are you going to take next? Going to finally get a running back? Are you totally punting?
I'm still punting.
Okay.
I'm between 3 people currently, and that would be Allen Robinson, Robert Woods, or Mark Andrews, who I mentioned before. I do think I will go ahead and grab Mark Andrews, though. Get a bit of a positional advantage at tight end. Not my normal strategy. Typically, what we both Will and I do is wait on tight end. This year we'd be looking at, I don't know, Fant, Gesicki. I think Higbee's rising up a little bit too much for us, but that kind of, 9th, 10th, 11th round kind of guy. I grabbed Mark Andrews last year in whatever 10th round or so, and he was huge for me. So that's our normal strategy. So this is definitely very much so against what we normally do. But, sometimes you got to do something you're not comfortable with and don't typically do just to see how it works out and learn a thing or two. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to lock him in there. We had T.Y. Hilton go off the board, Mark Ingram, Robert Woods, Keenan Allen, and A.J. Brown. The picks to you, Will.
Right. And it's interesting. You took tight end and I took tight end, and you've got your quarterback. I'm not going to go quarterback here, but we are definitely not practicing what we preach usually.
Oh, not at all.
Draft.
Very different.
Not at all. So you got top of the board. Only Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are off at quarterback. Only Kittle, Kelsey, and Andrews at tight end. As I mentioned, I'm not going to go quarterback. I've already got a tight end. So we have running backs. Top of the board, we have David Johnson, Raheem Mostert, Jonathan Taylor, Kareem Hunt, Marlon Mack, Darius Geis. Top of the board ADP-wise for wide receiver, Allen Robinson, Tyler Lockett, Deebo Samuel, DJ Chark, Juju Smith-Schuster, Stephon Diggs, Odell Beckham, who's still a little low. I think he'd probably be rising up soon. For me, with just the amount of running backs that are already off the board, I want to get an upside guy. There's going to be a lot of safe options available. And I feel like every year I always end up with a rookie running back. So Clyde's already off the board. We talked about the Clyde versus JT debate a little earlier. But this one here, I think, at least this first year, I think both of them are going to be successful. So we're going to lock in Jonathan Taylor, see what kind of running backs and receivers fall past pick 101 here. We'll lock in Jonathan Taylor, Allen Robinson, and David Johnson go. A-Rob, debating taking A-Rob and see if Taylor would get back, but didn't want to risk that. Robinson, not thrilled about the quarterback situation there, but he just has proven that he is a consistent receiver year in and year out. So it's definitely a good pick there. Not really loving too many of the running backs left. We still got DeAndre Swift and Dobbins available, but I don't want to double down on the rookie running backs at least yet. So we're going to flip back over to the wide receiver position. And 3 names stick out for me: Deebo Samuel, Juju Smith-Schuster, and then Mr. Odell Beckham Jr. A lot of people are low on Odell, and I think that's going to be the pick for me here. But how are you guys feeling about Odell Beckham? Steve clearly is showing his hand about how he's thinking about him. How are you feeling about Odell this year going into the year? Yeah, is that good? You're really happy about him?
I was like, did he hear him?
I don't know. Like, I do worry about him. Injury concerns, Baker development. The shaking of my head is more because I probably would have picked him just to double down on the madness that I'm.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been a heck of a team, though. I mean, obviously no running backs, but still, that is the key to the zero RB strategy. Is just to load up on those other positions. So for
sure. So I would have did it, but yeah, I'm kind of shaky on him. He's just the constant injuries just worry me.
Yeah,
every year, man.
Yeah, it's for me. It's the upside. Galladay's already on the team. Juju,
Jarvis coming back or not,
and
Jarvis healing up how quick might be good for him.
Yeah, and it all hinges on Baker, and Steve and I are pretty reliant on Baker. We've got a couple other quarterbacks on our dynasty team, but Baker is like our top guy, so we are banking on the bounce back year this year. But as I mentioned here, we're going to go Odell pairing with Kenny Galladay, Kittle, McCaffrey, and JT. And I'm pretty happy with the team so far. So we'll see what gets back to you. Obviously not Odell Beckham, Steve. So DJ Chark, Tyler Lockett, Zach Ertz, AJ Green, and Deebo Samuel. The Niners fan, you almost got him there, Steve. Almost.
He was in consideration, as was Chark. So I am going to stick with another wide receiver. I really should be like the strategy's not that bad. If I were to pivot to wide receiver now, you could start off with Raheem Mostert or Hunt as your first running back, which, I mean, you could do far worse. And you only have one flex spot. So I would advocate that you pivot here.
And you're only starting 2 wide receivers and a flex, not 3. So that makes a change for you, maybe.
Yeah.
Because we're going to find out how much worse you can do in a minute.
You're basically locking in your flex now.
You pretty much are. So, again, you should be pivoting here because of all those reasons, but I'm here to teach a lesson. So
the gambler.
Yeah, we're going to do something. Yes, the gambler. So if you're familiar with the Trust Your Board podcast, you know that I have a bit of a second personality where I gamble a lot. So this is just it. So I'm looking at Juju would be a great shot here. I'm Juju in the flex if you can get a Juju returning the form. But I kind of like Terry McLaurin more.
Scary
Uh,
Terry.
Yeah, I mean, just like I don't know who else is going to catch the ball. I know they drafted some guys. Sims broke out a little bit last year, but like they're not on his level. So he's really going to be the one for that team. They're going to be down a lot, so they're going to be quite reliant on him.
You worry about the quarterback situation at all?
Very much so. Not a big Haskins guy, so
Yeah.
definitely concerned. But it's not like he had the best quarterback play in the world last year either. So I can look past that. Juju's got a ton of competition with Deontay, emerging, and now I know it's not a dynasty, but you have the cut talk of maybe they just move on from Juju, and if they really saw this big kind of star in him, I don't know if they would be talking like that, or those kind of rumors would be coming out. So I'm just going to lock in McLaurin here. Like you said, I'm really putting myself into a hole, but I'm just going to start pounding running back and see what happens. So Juju did go off the board right after my pick, and then Kyler Murray picks to you, Bob.
You can have Kyler Murray. Thank you, computer. Take him out of my way.
Also going 0 RB. Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp.
Wow.
Are you guys going to have like a stare down there?
Nice.
Yeah, wow.
Nice. I dig it. So I've got some choices here. I'm not going with the quarterback. I'm not going with the tight end. And the quick question. So you can't. It's too late. But so you have Mahomes, or one of you guys had Lamar last game.
Yep.
Last
Draft. Yep.
Thank you. So I was listening to something, and the guys took Mahomes, and they also took his tight end, which sounds great. But in a redraft with small benches, and you're now streaming both those guys on the same week, which seems like you're going to have to kick two players to the curb versus one, that rotational stream spot.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have any preference there if you do go with the stud quarterback tight end match up or no? Pair up, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, one option is just that week you're gonna have to make a cut of another guy that you've been rotating in.
Mm-hmm.
The other option is you're almost punting that week. You never want to lose a week, but you're going to start somebody, but you're pretty much banking on punting that week. Maybe you load up on a couple bye weeks and just say, hey, this is the lost week, but the rest of the season my team's loaded. So
yeah,
I think that's a lesser use, but another option.
And you also have the idea that a lot of people trade during the season, so they might not have both those guys on their roster. But at the same time, if it's Kelsey and Mahomes, you probably still have them both on your roster.
And I wonder if it's like an emotional attachment where, like, if you have both of them, you're less likely to trade either than if you just had one of them.
I would buy that theory. All right, so I am sitting with a pretty open to do whatever I want type roster here with Mixon, Aaron Jones, Gurley, and then DJ Moore. But I would like a little more wide receivers. So, yeah, I'm pretty cheesy like that. I got a handful of wide receivers I'd be willing to take here. I would be willing to take a shot on Parker. I think he does have an opportunity to have another great year. I've been a fan of his for multiple years. Him and Higbee, just unfortunately a little bit too early. Gallup, I like. Marvin Jones is
Cortland Sutton.
Very boom bust. I have Sutton in my dynasty league. I would consider him here. Because I'm on the turn and I have so many wide receivers I do like and not a lot of running backs, I'm going to take one more running back.
Come on, man.
Sorry. I'm going 0 wide receiver here.
Oh, boy.
So, but the good news is you probably want Mostert, and I think I might be taking Ronald Jones here. I think that he is a better talent than a lot of people give him credit for. I think that the rookies are going to be held back a little bit more than people think they are. And when he does get the ball, he is pretty explosive. So, and I feel like, at least in the beginning of the season, I can trust him. Mostert, I feel like it's like starting Amari Cooper. You don't know when the good week is. So, that being said, probably got to scroll down and reach here. I'm going to reach for Ronald Jones and hit the turn. Mostert goes right after. Then Geis. Damn. Sorry about starting the run there.
Oh.
Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah.
Will he continue the run? That's the question.
Yeah. I guess you are correct. Well, it took a break from this whole round here. We're going to go back to wide receiver. Sutton or Parker? I do like Sutton. I'll go homer pick here.
There it is.
You twisted my arm. I really kind of did want Parker,
Just
but
planted the idea.
Yeah,
in your
not a
head.
lot
I
of
know.
twisting. We just said the name.
just sweet nothings of Cortland Sutton in my ear. After Sutton goes Stephon Diggs, another great opportunity, and then Marlon Mack. To you,
Okay.
Steve.
So you've got some solid kind of zero RB guys. You have Hunt, who was a running back 2 last year when he came back. After coming back, that's great. You have Sony, who's going to be one for his team. I know he's not the most exciting guy, but he's going to get a lot of volume, and that's going to be pretty reliable. Who I am looking at is one of the rookies. I'm either going to take my shot on Swift or Akers, and I've been rolling the dice. I'm going to just roll the dice on Akers and hope that he ends up with that Gurley role. If he does, and they give him a bell cow role, I'm solid. I have no worries anymore. This team is loaded. But at the very worst, he'll be in a timeshare and probably on the positive end of that timeshare. So I'd be okay with that. That's kind of what you're dealing with when you're doing a zero RB kind of deal. So we're going to lock in Cam Akers here for my first running back. After me, a little bit of a quarterback run. We had Darren Waller, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, and Kareem Hunt. Before you, Will.
Kind of glad because I was debating Prescott and Wilson, Watson to a degree as well. I think most of fantasy football soured on him a little bit just because the weapons, losing arguably the best receiver in football, it's going to take a little bit of a toll, but not really replacing him with much. With like 4 of the same wide receiver, pretty much. Just a lot of deep balls and not too much underneath. So, but yeah, Prescott and Wilson, I think that's good value for both of them here, end of the 6th, middle of the 6th where they went.
Yeah.
But don't have to have that temptation. Continue to wait there. I don't think there's really any other quarterbacks, Rodgers, Ryan, Breeze, Wentz, all of them I'd be okay with a little later. So we're looking at the wide receiver and the running back position here. Steve alluded to one of them, Swift and Akers, 2 of the other 2 top running back options. And they're guys that, you heard someone else mention on a different podcast recently that, when you're looking at guys, and these guys maybe not so much because they're all going to be drafted, but like later round guys, if you're unsure on a later round wide receiver, later round running back, lean with the guy that's going to cost you more in fab come week 1 or 2 if they pop than the receiver, right? Your running back's going to be half your budget, maybe your receiver's 10, 20%. But that's neither here nor there since we're only around 6. But looking at DeAndre Swift, as Steve mentioned there, and then at the wide receiver position, still have the likes of Gimpy, Jarvis Landry. As Bob mentioned there, we have Marquise Brown, Cooks, Michael Gallup, aforementioned Parker, Boyd. There's more than enough receivers that I like there, and just kind of one of my kind of rules of thumb on the turn, whether you're the 2 or the 3, even the 4, kind of look at the guys behind you, say, all right, what do they have? And they're pretty even there. He could go really anything. But what, with only 2 picks after me, there's more than enough receivers that I'm comfortable with. There's really just Swift that is kind of in that tier for me. So we're going to go Swift, double down on the rookie running backs to pair with the guy that I'm pretty confident in McCaffrey. We'll see what kind of receivers get back to me here. So we got Jarvis Landry. Oh, and I took Kerryon Johnson. Oops. Well,
Do we want to fix that? Was there a way to fix that?
I
want to fix it. I want to be accurate. Let's take 1 second.
Well, I appreciate that. I saw the Detroit.
All right. So
you'd have to change the Swift to something else. Don't delete. Click on Swift and go to change player.
Remove player.
Remove player. Yeah, sure. And then just change Swift.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
I appreciate that, sir.
I won't do it twice. If you mess this up again, it's yours.
One mulligan. One mulligan. I mean, I'm okay with that. It's funny that their ADP is right next to each other. If you look at it, DeAndre's 78 and Kerryon's 80. But if we looked in the dynasty draft, they were like rounds apart. So it's interesting here in redraft that they're right next to each other. But this time I will actually take DeAndre Swift. And look at that. He goes Cooks and Brown. I don't know what he took the last time, but
not those guys. They took Jarvis and your guy.
Yes. Yeah. So passes up on them. So not too enamored really with any of the other running backs there. I've already got 3 locked in, so I'm probably looking wide receiver. Still more than enough quarterbacks for my liking. Don't really need to get one of them. Now, this was a position where I don't think I would have went Wilson or Prescott there if they were both available. But if they were available here, this is probably where I would have seen if he took one of them. If not, maybe go for the quarterback, one of those guys. But the rest that are there, not really looking at any of them. So we look at the wide receiver position. We've got Jarvis Landry, Michael Gallup, Parker, Boyd. Really not looking too much further down than that. It's kind of a little tier break, and not thrilled about Jarvis Landry. With Odell being a little inconsistent, Kenny Galladay, has upside, probably a decent floor, but some inconsistency there as well. Typically, I would want to go for a consistent guy like a Jarvis Landry, but I think I'm going to go for another guy that probably has a high floor, a little PPR level guy in a Tyler Boyd. Kind of just give myself some safety there. Usually pretty confident putting him in the flex if needed, especially if one of the running backs doesn't pan out out of the 2 rookies. So we're going to pair Tyler Boyd in here to even out the team. And, doesn't always work out perfectly, but if possible, I usually try to keep a pretty even pairing between running backs and wide receivers. I'll maybe try to go more running back if possible, just because there's less available, but usually try to strike a good balance there, Steve mentioned, or either earlier here or in the last one. So we'll go Tyler Boyd. Got it right that time, it looks like. And Michael Gallup goes, Devontae Parker, Jarvis Landry, Will Fuller, and Sony Michel. Steve, I know you were real bummed that Sony went off there in front of you. It would have been a nice RB2 for you.
Yeah, sure.
Wow, that's painful, and that's your RB2.
I know, right? So Sony was not the guy I was targeting. The guy I was targeting is still on the board, and that would be Matt Breida. So maybe a little bit of a homer pick because I'm a 49ers fan. He's not there anymore, but, he's kind of my boy. But, we've seen a lot of talent out of the guy. I do think there's going to be an open competition in Miami. A lot of people have Howard as that one. I kind of do too. But I think Breida is going to have the pass catching role for sure. And he could carve out more because he's incredibly talented. As I say that, I'm wondering where Howard is. He was not drafted. I'm surprised he's not going ahead of
He's
Breida.
there. He's pretty far down.
Wow.
Yeah.
He is pretty far down. Why?
Pretty far down.
Jordan Howard?
Yeah.
He's next on my list.
Is
in
he?
Miami.
Yeah. In ADP, he's actually pretty far down, which is
that's
interesting.
the interesting thing, Steve. I know we've been trying to put out like ADP changes week to week on Twitter. You'll see guys that now are super low, and you're going to see throughout the season, the offseason, especially if he looks even decent. A guy like that, that's like, all right, this is going to be a player that is going to get carries, right? He's not the sexiest player, but he and Breida, I think, are kind of by themselves there. So I think he's a guy that the ADP could rise a bit on.
Yeah, I'm actually going to pick him. I kind of assumed that he was gone. I don't know why, because like thinking back, I don't remember him disappearing, but I'm surprised his ADP
like him a little more than Breida.
Yeah, I mean, he'll have again, it's a competition, but I do think he takes the first and second down role and probably the goal line carries, where Breida's going to be your pass catcher. Maybe your pass catcher is what you want in a 0 RB, but in a half-point PPR, he's not even getting a full point for those receptions. So I will stick with Jordan Howard, and at least I got what I think is going to be a starter.
I dig it.
2 tight ends go off the board: Evan Ingram and Hunter Henry.
Good.
Yeah, didn't want them there.
Didn't want him. All right, Evan Ingram. Bye-bye. Deal with that later because I don't really want those guys. All right, so I'm thinking wide receiver here because I would like to have another. I started with Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, Todd Gurley, and Ronald Jones at running back. So that's a good little running back core. DJ Moore and Cortland Sutton, words. So wide receivers: Marvin Jones, Sterling Shepard, Julian Edelman, Crowder, Golden Tate, Slayton. Yeah. Anything on the running back front?
A couple rookies and put in backups. Yeah,
You don't want a running back. No running back, please.
Don't worry about it. I think I'm going think I don't want to take a quarterback right now. Like when you hate the wide receivers, you go quarterback, right? But I'm not doing that. Let's take the boom of Marvin Jones Jr. here. The man can put up 3 touchdown weeks in a blink and then 4 points the next week. I don't know why I'm taking him, but I dig it. Let's do that. Marvin Jones Jr., welcome to my squad. After that goes Damian Williams and Drew Brees. We're back, and we're going to take another wide receiver here. The same wide receiver I took in the last draft, which is a stretch, but I like him. And you know what? This is fantasy football, so fucking take your guy that you like. It's okay. You can do it. So I'm taking Darius Slayton. And after Darius Slayton goes Kerryon Johnson, Aaron Rodgers, and over to you, Steve. So not too much pain on the running back front there.
No, it wasn't too bad. It's funny, Burrito's still there. I he would be interesting, but I don't want 2 guys in Miami, so I ain't doing that.
Sure we can't talk into it?
Yeah,
I'm sure we could if we really tried.
I don't think we can.
I don't think we can. I have my
I hope we can't.
No, you can't.
If you just whisper it really low, then it'll just get stuck in his head.
Yeah. It's not going to happen. I'm not susceptible to those things. There's 2 guys that I find – I find Lindsey interesting. I mean, as the Denver fan, Bob, do you see him establishing some Eckler-type role?
I don't know what the hell to think about my running backs. I enjoyed the 2 that we had.
Yeah.
I felt like Gordon was a bonus pick. But Gordon's got a lot of great talent, so I'm glad to have him on the team. Lindsey can totally have huge games. The guy is you give him the ball, hand him the ball, throwing the ball short, and all of a sudden he's in the end zone 50 yards away. I mean, he can just all of a sudden be gone. So
yeah,
or he could do nothing.
Yeah, fair. So he's not really on my radar. I just don't want to gamble with it, which is funny because I'm going to be gambling with this pick here. But I got 2 guys that I'm somewhat comfortable starting in Akers and Howard. I'm going to pick somebody that I'm going to sit for a little while, and I'm sure that's a hint to Will. So we both love this guy. We're going to lock in J.K. Dobbins here.
I think you and I are just going to have all the rookie running backs at this point.
We are, yeah. So, I love a high-powered offense, older running back ahead of him. Are we going to run into a Hyde situation where Chubb overtakes Hyde and he gets dealt? I don't really think so. But I do think he could carve out a timeshare and be a valuable piece. It might just take him some time to do it.
And we talked about the Gus Edwards effect last year, that he came in and that team was up often, that he was a valuable fantasy asset because just the amount of touches he got in third, fourth quarter games.
100%. So I'm hoping for the same.
That's like a floor for Dobbins.
That's what I'm hoping for, man. So we went ahead and locked him in. We had Edelman go, Breida, Tevin Coleman, Gronk, and then Matt Ryan.
Yeah. I was hoping that a Breida type of player got back because it'd be nice to get a 4th running back of that level. Really only interested in really rookies still available. Like you said, Lindsey's an option there. James White. But I'm worried about that New England offense. I don't know what they're going to look like. It's going to be so weird if they're a 3-13 team this year without Brady. But they have a good defense. I just don't know that. I think he just had some magic with Brady. Brady just loved checking it down to him. And you got a young quarterback, but I'm just not sold on it. An upside, shot for me here. We're not looking for, super boom bust guys, but a guy that you probably got to take a little earlier in drafts. It's a guy named Alexander Madison, especially if you're drafting earlier in the offseason. You don't know if Cook's going to hold out. You imagine he will, but you don't know. And with the coronavirus, this is going to be a really weird year because it's not going to be just completely gone in September, right? There's going to be times where are they going to have like a DL like the like baseball has, where you got the coronavirus, you have to quarantine for 14 days, you're out 2 weeks. Madison can come in and, you want to, in general, you want to have the high upside handcuffs. And they're probably a little more prevalent now because they can come in and take over for a few weeks. So we're going to go with Alexander Madison here, try to keep that balance and see what kind of wide receivers are available. There's a couple that are interesting, but we'll go Alexander Madison here, see what comes back. We got Carson Wentz off the board and Philip Lindsay. Another option that if I was going to double down, I might have doubled down on Lindsay and Madison there. But with him off the board, running back wise, you have James White, Davis Murray, Vaughn, Henderson, Pollard. There's another guy in Pollard that has that Madison type value, but probably only going to take one or two of those. Maybe Chase Edmonds. You kind of look into that realm of handcuffs that are worth having on your roster, kind of independent, right? Maybe you're not clogging it up if you own the starter, but they're good guys to have on the roster just overall. Probably looking at the wide receiver position. Quarterbacks, just a quick rundown since we had a couple go there. Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Baker Mayfield, Matt Stafford, Daniel Jones, Big Ben, Kirk Cousins, Goff. There's still quite a few quarterbacks that I'd be okay with. I don't have the specific schedules up here, but for the most part, Steve and I are late quarterback guys. So usually I'm looking at the schedule and saying, for defense and for quarterback, what's your first 3 or 4 weeks, right? If I'm going to stream a guy, if I can draft you and use you for the first few weeks, that's what I'll do. And just without knowing the schedules, there's still quite a few guys here that I like. So looking at the wide receiver position, an interesting name here, it might be one of his last years of big relevance, but on a new team is Emmanuel Sanders in New Orleans. And no Breeze is, he's got Kamara, he's got Michael Thomas clearly, right? You don't know how many targets are to go around with Jared Cook there. But he's a guy that intrigues me, especially I could see him taking a few targets away from maybe not Michael Thomas, but the other two. And he's just always been a consistently good receiver. So he's an interesting option there with Galladay, with Beckham, with Tyler Boyd is another solid option. But there's a couple of other, you got your CeeDee Lamb, your Jerry Jeudy. Not usually too thrilled about taking rookie wide receivers just because they typically take a little time to develop. One guy that I think that I'm going to look at here, and at this point I'm kind of throwing ADP out the window. The guy may get back to me here, but he's got a lot of upside still, even though he still hasn't shown it. It's Mike Williams from the Chargers. Big fan of Mike Williams. I know Steve and I were high on him going into last year. He didn't do everything, but it's all going to come down to Herbert. I know Steve and I aren't super high on Herbert either, but there's been many quarterbacks that came in. Daniel Jones, I wasn't super high on last year, and he proved to be a relevant quarterback. So
what do you think, Bob, about Herbert?
Is he going to play this year?
That's very fair question. Especially, especially in the current environment, he's not going to get the reps.
He might play, he might not. If he does play, I think he could be fine for the team. But I don't know if he's going to play.
It's fair.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how the wide receivers did with Tyrod in Cleveland. Was it 2 years ago before Baker stepped in? Because I could see it being like
I could see Tyrod having a big year. Actually, is the problem. And I was trying to figure out something on my next pick. So I thought if you were talking about taking him as a quarterback for a second there, that's why I was thrown off. I'm like, why in the hell would you take him in redraft? Like, where is he going with this? Sorry about that.
Herbert.
Yeah, I'm like, well, where did that come from? Late round? That's really late. I could see Tyrod holding on to the reins a little longer, or maybe at least seeing when their bye week is. A lot of teams make switches at the bye week.
Yeah,
true.
How much does that impact Williams would be the next question. So
and the big worry for me is how many weapons can he sustain, right? Because you do have Keenan Allen there, you do have Eckler, and you do have Hunter Henry. But at this point in the draft, with only 50 seconds left on the clock here for me, I think Mike Williams makes the most sense. As I mentioned, Emmanuel Sanders, but we're going to lock in Mike Williams as another upside wide receiver.
Okay.
So Christian Kirk, Austin Hooper, Josh Allen, James White, Mecole Hardman. To you, Steve.
Ah, boy. Okay, so this is where you really see like the lesson that is being taught here. So, we look at quarterbacks, like, and any of our listeners know I'm a huge Matt Stafford guy. Like, love the player, love him for fantasy. So, like, would I rather have Pat Mahomes and Latavius Murray, or would I rather have Josh Jacobs or Joe Mixon and Matt Stafford? I would much rather have the Stafford side, like just the gap between Stafford and Mahomes is just much closer than the gap between Mixon and Latavius Murray. Like they're 1,000 tiers apart. So that's kind of the lesson that we're teaching here. With that in mind, we will go with another running back here. There's two interesting options here, one of which is Tariq Cohen. Gets a ton of receptions. I don't know he's going to get as many as he got last year, but he's just a reception machine. If it was full PPR, this will probably be the pick. Half point, I'm kind of leaning away from him. And, we just keep rolling the dice, so we're just going to roll it again here. I will counter Bob's Rojo pick with a Keyshawn Vaughn pick.
There it is.
There it is.
I know Will and I both were not very supportive.
He wasn't making it back to you.
Oh, good move, Steve. So Will and I were, I know, right? Will and I were not big Rojo people. I think we do both recognize that last year he was definitely valuable and would be valuable again this year. I just don't think you spend, what was Keyshawn, a third-round pick? I don't think you spend a third-round pick on a running back without the desire to use him and use him quite a bit. They did lose Peyton Barber. They could have brought somebody in. You could have got Benjamin in the 7th round if that's really what you wanted to do. So I think they brought him in for a reason. I know there was some hype around him of being like the guy. I don't think that's really in the cards. More likely probably a 50-50 split. And maybe if he shows up, he can take over by the end of the year. But I don't think he's ever going to be the bell cow for that team, at least not this year. But again, kind of an upside shot, a 50-50 guy that I kind of believe in. And I need running back. So
there you go.
We'll lock him in here. We had Manny Sanders and then Latavius Murray go off.
All right. So that was a very short little run there. I am looking at the quarterback you mentioned. Everybody has one except you, Will. I think.
I, yeah.
And I realized that when I'm sitting here counting stuff that you guys can see what I'm doing. I went through and count. Okay. So the problem is that I have 3 quarterbacks I do like. So, and one of them's pretty deep. And so I shouldn't have a problem with them falling to me, but I really like Stafford's upside. He just drafted Breeze, so I feel pretty confident that the computer's not going to go back-to-back or back to almost back on picks. So I feel like I can take him on the swing back. I don't know that Stafford will make it back to me. So that's going to be my pick in a second here.
Okay.
And I'm sitting
Good pick. I don't think he would have made it back to you.
Yeah.
I'll give you a little insight there.
Okay. I like it. So I'm sitting here with 4 running backs I like, 4 wide receivers I like. The world is my oyster. And I can really do whatever I want here. I don't like Sterling Shepard that much. I kind of maybe almost like Crowder. I don't know why. I've never had a thing for him. Maybe I'm just not an Irish whiskey kind of guy. That's a joke from a different buddy of mine. But anyway, sorry about that. Yeah, so I say that. Cohen?
So,
I'll take
Bob,
Cohen.
can I mention something to you real quick?
Do it.
Before you make your pick. You do have Marvin Jones.
I do.
You did have Matt Stafford that went down last year, and then the year before he did play all season, but he did have broken bones in his back that affected his play.
Yep.
Do you concern that, like, if something happens again for a 3rd year in a row, you've just essentially lost 2 assets?
Nope.
Okay.
and here's why. No, this is actually a very valid question. In Dynasty, I might be more concerned about it. I'm going to take this pick just because I'm on the turn anyway. It's fine. So Tariq Cohen, Henderson, and Tom Brady go off the board. He did go with another quarterback.
Yeah.
All right. Surprise. Never know what the computer's going to do. So doctors say that you can play with broken bones in your back. I can't play with the splinter in my hand. So, but they say he can play. So if he can play through that and he's okay, this is a redraft league. It's not super deep. I don't imagine all the quarterbacks we've taken. I am completely fine streaming, and I would be going much deeper, but I really like Stafford out of what's left. That's the only reason I'm going now. We're in the 10th round. I'm very comfortable in quarterback and running back. So if he doesn't even make it to the season, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I wasted a 10th round pick, I'm okay with that. Anything in the double digits is dart throw chances, and we only have 3 rounds left. We only have 3 rounds left anyway. So yeah, it's time.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. Stafford plays through a lot of stuff anyway. The man's an Iron Man. Like,
Yeah, really is.
Not a lot of concern.
All right. So after Matt Stafford goes CeeDee Lamb and Hayden Hurst. That would have been a tight end that I was considering taking right there instead of Matt Stafford.
You know what I am enjoying from this experiment is not needing to look at quarterback and tight end. Like,
Yeah.
every year you play this game of like, oh man, is Hayden Hurst going to get back to me? I would have just gotten burned and I would have felt terrible. And like, I don't need to play that game. So it's really nice not needing to look at it. Fun little side effect. I will jump back in and grab another wide receiver. The only wide receivers I have are Godwin, Ridley, and McLaurin. Keep in mind, we can only start 3 at a max. So I'm really locked and loaded. I can't see a reason outside of injury to where I wouldn't be starting those guys. But injuries occur. Things happen. I do want to grab another one. And Deontay Johnson is just screaming off the board at me right now. I don't think his ADP is going to be in the 10th round come draft season. I think it's going to be a little bit higher. But after the year last year and then getting a competent quarterback and Big Ben back, like, I don't know how much gas he has in the tank, but even if it's a little bit, it's going to be better play than he got last year. So I think
he's James Washington. You just wasted your pick.
We will see.
Yeah.
But he's a perfect kind of bench guy. He'll fill in on bye weeks splendidly. So we'll go ahead and lock him in here. John Brown, Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant, Baker Mayfield, and Jared Cook going off the board before your pick, Will.
All right. So still looking at the quarterback position. Stafford was one guy that I do like in for late rounds this year. So I think that was a great pick there in the 10th round. Risking it on the number 12 team, taking Tom Brady over Stafford. So looked out for you, Bob. But a couple of guys I'm looking at here, Daniel Jones and Ben Roethlisberger, the aforementioned, that I think are interesting. He's still got, upside guys like Burrow, safe guys like Tannehill, Bridgewater. So I think I'm good to wait around at least. So I can kind of go with my favorite skill position player left, and then take the quarterback and then see what comes back to me there in the 12th round. So looking at skill position guys, there's not too much left at the running back position. You got another rookie in Zach Moss, Chase Edmonds, Duke Johnson, Jamal Williams, Carlos Hyde. Really not a ton there. The only guy that really sticks out to me, Zach Moss, probably the guy. And I'd get another rookie. Steve and I seem to be competing to see who can have the most rookie running backs on their team.
Moss is on my radar, so.
Yeah. Then, you got wide receivers, Stone Shepard, Sammy Watkins, Ruggs, Alshon Jeffrey, Crowder, Preston Williams. Nothing really that screams out to me. Preston, Anthony Miller, Golden Tate are decent, but guys that I wouldn't mind. These other upside wide receivers I'll take later. So I think here we're going to go running back and then see which of the quarterbacks get back to me here. So we'll go with Zach Moss, and hopefully this guy doesn't take both Daniel Jones and Ben Roethlisberger after he just took Carson Wentz. But we will see.
I got excited there because I have my picks. Motherfucker. He just took taller than me.
Wow.
You were banking on that tight end, huh?
Man.
That's what I was looking at. It was one of a few, but I was like, ooh, he's still sneaking in there. I do mark explicit on this show, so children will not probably be clicking on it, so it's okay.
So yeah, Daniel Jones goes, makes it an easy pick for me. The last couple guys in the tier, Ben and Daniel Jones. Drew Lock's a good upside guy. He's still got the likes of Rivers, Burrow, Tannehill, so still some solid options, but there's really not any running backs or wide receivers that are screaming out to me that I need to get now. I'd rather just take a shot at somebody later. So I'll lock in Ben Roethlisberger here.
There you go.
And we'll see what falls to you teams. Sammy Watkins, Sterling Shepard, Jamison Crowder, Tony Pollard, and Jared Goff.
Okay. I'm going to pound out with my last 2 picks here, more running backs, because I need more shots. At this stage in the game, we're taking upside shots. Chase Edmonds, Justin Jackson, Duke Johnson, they're not doing it for me. I'm not – like Chase Edmonds could have the upside, but like you're waiting for an injury. I'm not playing that game. I'm looking a little bit deeper at Nyheim Hines. do I really believe that this is going to happen? Not really, but you have the Eckler narrative, right? You have check down Charlie and Phillip Rivers. So at the very least, he's going to get plenty of check downs. But, can he turn into an Eckler type role? Maybe, potentially.
They're trying to build the hype around it right now, right?
They are,
Mhm.
yeah. I don't really buy into it. I think they're going to use, JT and Mac a little bit more. Plus, you have plenty of pass catching options there. So I don't really buy into it, but the potential exists, and I need to take a shot there.
All right, so after Hines goes Henry Ruggs. Okay, on Henry Ruggs, he got a cut on his leg. He injured his leg helping a friend move because he got pinned between the moving truck and a car. That's bullcrap, no matter how you read it. How do you get pinned between two stationary vehicles if you're moving furniture?
Yeah.
Somebody ran him over, man.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it doesn't sound right.
It's like a gash
No.
on his leg too. You'd imagine it would be like
if this guy
break
can't
the bone.
make it between a car and a truck, he can't read zones. All right.
Fair point.
Moving on from that, I just thought I'd get that out there. It's been driving me crazy. All right, so this is perfect for me. I got the tight, unless he got picked. I don't see him. Yeah, so I wanted Higbee. I didn't get Higbee. Y'all kind of heard that. So I'm going to take the tight end I want here because the wide receiver I'm going to take after that as my flyer, I'm pretty sure is deep enough down there that won't get touched. So I like Mike Gesicki's opportunity. He is a very, very talented freak of a wide receiver who was bringing it on strong at the end of the year. And he still has a quarterback right now that will be chucking it and a coach that likes that quarterback and will let him chuck it. So we're going to take Mike Gesicki there.
Solid pick.
Thank you. Alshon and his teammate Preston Williams go off the board, which leaves me with my final pick, which I do like. This felt like a sneaky pick to take here. At wide receiver in the 12th round, you want to take a shot, and you want to take shots late on guys that can show up early if you want them to, or you can just cut them for a waiver wire pickup. Jalen Reagor seems like a good opportunity for that because he has a great path to play. Alshon is in the hospital more than anybody I know. That's not true, but I like the opportunity with Jalen Reagor, and I don't know how it could pass on him in the 12th round. So after Reagor goes Dallas Goedert. That's a nice pickup. And Robbie Anderson, who I love. We'll see what really happens with them in Carolina.
Yeah, so this is kind of the point where I'm not familiar enough to know what to do. My heart says I shouldn't be leaving the draft with only 4 wide receivers, but I don't feel like I need that many wide receivers, and I feel like I need running back shots. So I'm going to take another shot on a running back, and I'm going to go way deep. Like, we're way off ADP. I had mentioned him before. I don't remember if I mentioned him on this draft or on the Dynasty draft that we did just prior, but I'm going to grab McKinnon here.
Okay.
A very deep shot. His ADP is way late. In fact, in a normal redraft, I don't think he's going at all. But they're running a lot of routes with him. He seems to be fully healthy. If he can carve out the pass-catching running back role for Kyle Shanahan-led offense, the dude's going to be electric if he has any gas left in the tank. So he could easily, if he carves out that role 4 times, he's a running back 2 for me.
He's his ADP is 1 round ahead of his fullback. I didn't want to say it that way, but I had to.
Yikes. Yeah, I mean, he's super late, and that's why I kind of hesitate to pick him here because it's like you're in the 12th round. What are you doing? But I need upside shots on running back, and when I think upside late, this is the guy I'm thinking of. Maybe it's a homer pick because I'm a 49ers fan. If you want to call it that, that's fine. But, I definitely recognize the upsides there with him. And, like you were saying before, Bob, we'll know in week 1. If his usage is there, and I've just hit the home run. If it's not, cut, move along, and I'll grab somebody off of waivers. No big deal.
Thought you were going with our boy Frank Gore there, Steve. Huge upside.
No, Frank Gore.
The Infinity Stone himself.
Don't need him on this roster. After my pick, we had Jamal Williams, Anthony Miller, Golden Tate, Justin Jefferson, and Jimmy G.
Yeah, so a couple of upside RBs I think we mentioned a few times. Chase Edmonds is there. Boston Scott, I don't think you mentioned, but as of right now is the RB2 in Philly. But for me, one of my favorite late round flyers at the wide receiver position this year is, I think, has the inside track for the wide receiver 2 in Green Bay, and that's Alan Lazard. I think I'm probably going to have quite a few shares of him in late shot redrafts. Maybe showing my hand to Steve here a little bit. Maybe you'll forget by the time we have a draft in a couple
Bad
months.
idea, friend. Bad idea.
But he's a guy that he showed that he can do it, right? In Green Bay last year, he flashed on potential. Not huge on Equanimous St. Brown or any of the other. They have a couple of other younger receivers.
Geronimo.
That are okay. So, for me, pretty easy pick here. Just locking in an upside wide receiver to round out my keep it even wide receiver and RB core. So we'll go Alan Lazard.
Right.
And then Michael Pittman to win the draft.
There we go. So that is the draft. And we're going to take a picture of this draft and the one we did on y'all's show. We're going to put them on Twitter for a little poll to see who had the best team, one of us three, or the field, someone, the computer, I guess. So it's us against the whole field. So it'll be a little interesting there. So let's talk about it. Will, what did you think of your team?
Yeah, pretty happy. Waiting on quarterback. Ben makes sense.
Recap it for the audio listeners.
You got it. So Ben at quarterback, Christian McCaffrey, Justin Taylor, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, Alexander Madison, Zach Moss. At wide receiver, Kenny Galladay, Odell Beckham, Tyler Boyd, Mike Williams, and Alan Lazard. And tight end, George Kittle. Running backs, having McCaffrey, I feel okay at that RB1, or very good at the RB1, good enough that I can take some shots at the position there. So don't love the overall depth, but CMC really rounds it out. Quarterback, I'm probably going to be streaming all year. Don't have to worry about streaming tight end with Kittle, and a solid receiving core. So overall, I'd be pretty happy going into the season with that team.
Awesome. Steve, we know how you feel about your team, but let's hear it.
Yeah, so to run it down, we have Mahomes at quarterback. At the running back position, we have Cam Akers, Jordan Howard, J.K. Dobbins, Keyshawn Vaughn, Naeem Hines, and Jerick McKinnon. At wide receiver, we have Godwin, Ridley, McLaurin, and Deontay Johnson. Then at tight end, we have Mark Andrews. I'm conflicted because I don't hate it. Like, those first 5 rounds, man, Mahomes, Godwin, Ridley, Andrews, McLaurin, that's stacked. And if just one of these running backs would hit, which I would think odds are one of them does, this team's definitely competing. I keep looking outside of Mahomes of like, where can I swap something? Like, instead of drafting Mark Andrews, could I just go a later tight end and draft another running back? But it's like,
yes,
would Mark Ingram or Jonathan Taylor or David Johnson make me feel that much better? Like, not really. And then the same thing. Like, could I pass in Ridley and then grab like Singletary or James Gurley? I could go early on Gurley. That would probably be the play. If I could trade in Calvin Ridley and get Gurley and then just get another wide receiver later, like a Marvin Jones instead of Jordan Howard. I would feel more comfortable with that. But for an exercise and going 0 RB, I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
Yeah. I like the team. I learned last year that I do not love taking tight end and quarterback early. It's not a habit of mine. I tried it in some 10-team leagues where it's often not a bad strategy because you can dominate a position, and I still hated it. So I went very wide receiver, running back heavy. I picked up the quarterback tight end late. So Matt Stafford as my quarterback, I dig as long as he stays healthy. He has a great amount of potential, and he's just forgotten this year. At running back, I took Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, Todd Gurley, Aaron Jones, and
Ronald Jones, I believe you mean?
Yeah, Ronald Jones and Aaron Jones.
No,
sorry.
He got Aaron Jones twice. He gets to start Aaron
I get him
Jones
twice because I want the extra points.
Yeah.
And then Tariq Cohen. So, okay. And then at wide receiver, I took the wide receiver that I thought you would take, DJ Moore, and then Cortland Sutton because y'all tricked me into it, and then Marvin Jones, Darius Slayton, and Jalen Rager as a nice late surprise. and at
I
tight
love
end-
that wide receiver grouping.
Yeah, that's a
Love it.
great late pick there.
and a tight end, Mike Gesicki. So would I be happy with this team? I would say 10 out of 10 times. I would take that team, see what I can do with it, hit the waiver wire, make some adjustments as needed. But I would like it. Aaron Jones was the biggest shot in there, but I think he has a better start than and he's the fourth running back in a start too.
Yeah,
So we don't really narrow in the settings for this one. So yeah,
If your team doesn't win this poll, something is just wrong.
we shall see. We shall see. So that's going to do it for this episode. Before you guys tune off the episode, I want you to go on there, subscribe now, because on my next show, I'm going to have the Superflex Guru on to talk a little fantasy football. We're going to talk a little Superflex. I know it's in his name, but only a little Superflex. And then we're going to go on running back rankings, which will be fun. Let's wrap this one up. Steve and Will, remind the listeners where they can find your work.
Yeah, you can give us a follow on Twitter at Trust Your Board. We'll be posting our Dynasty mock draft on Friday, right after this episode. So give us a follow, and you can find links to all the various podcasts and the YouTube channel there.
Okay.
Yeah, keep an eye out for some ADP changes, and that's one big thing we're working on now is going week to week to see how the average draft position changes as we get closer to the draft season.
Yep.
Perfect. And I can be found on Twitter at Bob's3Toad, on YouTube at Bob's3Toad Warriors, and listen to the new shows that drop on Monday and Thursday mornings, bright and early on YouTube and everywhere podcasts can be found. That's all for this show. It's been Bob's 3-Toed Warriors with Steve and Will from the Trust Your Board podcast, reminding you that soon enough you'll be able to hit the waiver wire, set your lineups, dominate your opponents, and let's win some damn championships together, people. See ya.
Do it.